a lot of artists I know have that kind of attitude of, I don't really care what people think.
Yeah.
I'm going to be me. And, it's some people like it. It's not for everybody. And that's perfectly fine.
Hi, and welcome to Moments That Matter, the podcast where we dive deep into the pivotal moments that have shaped the journeys of today's leaders. I'm your host, Jason Crepero, and in each episode, we're going to explore an industry leader and their unique story and the series of moments that have defined their path. Today, we're diving in with Don Barnett, Director of Sales and Marketing for the London House in Chicago. We're so excited to have Don on. He's a seasoned expert in digital marketing for the hospitality industry. Don, how are you?
Great. Thanks. Thanks for having me on, Jason. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. When we met, just to back up, Don and I met down in Sarasota in February, and I saw your name on the docket. I saw the London House come up. I had been a fan of that property for so long, and I was actually hoping to get the opportunity to talk to you, tell you what a fanboy we were of the hotel. I've been taking people there for years, and I was so relieved that you were so nice and friendly and open to hearing what we had. So it's always great to have someone who's good-natured. Diving into your background, can you give us an overview of you, how you get to where you are today?
Yeah,
how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Funny enough, I went to art school, hence hotel sales and marketing. I was going to school to be a graphic designer. I've done art since I was a little kid, and I was going to school to be a graphic designer and was working at a hotel in reservations, kind of worked my way through college. And while I was working there, I got promoted to a sales coordinator, and I reached this pivotal moment when I had an opportunity to be promoted to a sales manager. So I remember as I'm winding down school, I meet with my guidance counselor and I said, hey, I'm going to become a graphic designer. Are you going to help me find a job? And they said, well, it's very competitive, but we'll try to help you. And I said, okay, well, what does it pay to be a graphic designer? And they said, it pays this. And the hotel was willing to pay this. And I had also gotten engaged. So that was on the horizon. So I had this choice to make, and I decided that there was nothing stopping me from continuing to do art, but I could do the responsible thing financially, but I also just really enjoyed working at a hotel. I think my personality is conducive to hospitality. I love people. I have a bubbly personality as it is. So I love coming into work and being on stage. However, it's not really an act. It's just, that's how I am, all the time, is that type of personality. So hospitality suits me well, and I still have an outlet to paint and draw and do all that stuff and earn some commissions here and there with that. If I had my druthers, I'd probably be a fine artist with a thin mustache anyway, but there's nothing stopping me from doing that and also enjoying working in hospitality. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
That's awesome. And you still do art today? These are still things you're, no kidding. Anything you're working on right now?
A bucket list item that I started a couple months ago. I got COVID, and it wasn't that bad of a case of COVID. So I was home, and I was in solitude, trying not to infect my family. So I was hanging out in the garage, and I'm like, I'm going to work on my bucket list painting. I've always wanted to do a painting of the view from our rooftop at the hotel. That iconic, I call it the urban Grand Canyon, where you're looking down the Chicago River. So I've always wanted to paint that view, and I've got plenty of photos as reference. So that's something I've been working on.
I love that. And it is, you were ranked the number 2 rooftop in the United States, right?
We had one hotel beat us out. I think it's a hotel, or not a hotel, a rooftop in DC was number 1 in the nation. But yeah, we were ranked number 2 in the nation as far as best rooftop goes.
What's funny is I've been up there for afternoon 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, it's spectacular. Dusk, great to be up there right as the sun is setting, it's spectacular. And then at night, you're right in the heart of everything, downtown Chicago, the lights come up. What are you painting it in a certain time of day or certain light, or just off of a regular photo?
I'm a nerd for like skies. So I'm painting it as a day view of it. Okay. So with the blue sky and a couple clouds. So I like that iteration of it. But in person, you can't be seeing it at night with everything lit up and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. Neither. That's fantastic. I can't wait to see the finished product.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, you are very nice and welcoming, bubbly. Where does that side of you come from? Is there, is that something that has always been with you since you were growing up, or just kind of innately wired that way?
Yeah, I think it's a testament to great parenting. I've got great parents. I've got a pretty twisted sense of humor, and for somebody who had such a great childhood, I don't know where the weird sense of humor comes from. But I have great parents that raised me well, and my dad is originally from Kentucky, and he's the consummate Southern gentleman. He brought me up being respectful and opening doors for not just ladies but everybody, and again something that plays well in hospitality, holding those elevator doors and things like that. So. But yeah, and my mom is just full of life and great cook and just fun parents.
It's funny, like you say that. I think being around people, even if you went to lunch with them, from the Uber, or if you walk over, going into a restaurant, having lunch with someone, you can tell if they're wired for hospitality. If they're anticipating the needs of people around them, right? They're like, oh, let me get that door for you. Or they pick up trash that they didn't even put down, right? It's just like we want to serve, we want to help. Any moments in your life, early jobs, that kind of prepared you or thrust you in to take care of other people and anticipate their needs like that?
Wow. I started, my first job I ever had was at 12 years old. Working at a grocery store as a stock boy. Oh, wow. So it probably started there with, neighborhood, neighbors I knew coming into the store, and, I'd be stocking or facing shelves, and, they might ask where something was, but it was an opportunity to interact with neighbors in a business setting. I was paid $2.25 an hour cash under the table because I was only 12, but.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was my first introduction to a real job, and I also during high school worked at a banquet hall as a busboy, and again just serving, interacting with people, having an opportunity to let my personality shine when people would need something.
Yeah, it's funny. I think at those adolescent ages where, if you put something out to the universe, you're smiling at people, you're helping them, and you get that feedback loop where they thank you or they tip you or they congratulate you. It kind of reinforces the behavior that you're doing and adds to it and makes you want to be maybe more willing to do it in the future as well.
Yeah, especially at that age, I think it's important that you see that. And then now that I'm older, I don't need that. Because I know it works. I have faith in it. So I can just give of myself and know that it's creating a positive ripple effect in the world.
It's interesting you say that, because it does become how you operate. It becomes, I don't need validation. This is who I've decided to be. This is how I want to act. Even if the world's really not giving it back to me, I've just decided that I like this feeling of serving and helping, things like that.
Yeah. I also think that right brain artistic side of me also, a lot of artists I know have that kind of attitude of, I don't really care what people think. Yeah. I'm going to be me. And, some people like it. It's not for everybody, and that's perfectly fine. I'm comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah. Well, speaking of you being you, so after we met, I friended you on LinkedIn, and now a day doesn't go by where I log into LinkedIn and I see you. Just, you put out such amazing, inspirational, educational, a lot of funny stuff on Instagram. What was the pivotal moment for you, maybe the turning point that made you say, I have something to say, and I'm going to take this leap of faith, seize the moment, and start just putting stuff out? What was there something that you were thinking about it a lot, or you said, okay, this is my chance. I'm just going to start putting out content?
There's actually two moments. Okay. There's the original genesis of it, which was actually over a decade ago. And then it was about 2 years ago is when it was when LinkedIn, I went all in. The genesis of it started when I was working at a resort back in like 2003, and I had the idea to just start doing client contests. I've always tried to do something that other people aren't. I always want to do what is everybody else doing, and then I run in the opposite direction. What can I do that nobody else is? So I started doing client contests. I did a best recipe contest where the best recipe would get on our menu in the restaurant. I did a best joke contest where I would be the judge of what I thought was the funniest joke, and then you'd win comedy club tickets or something like that. But the one I landed on that was like okay, now I got it. It was a bingo contest. Okay. So the concept was I bought individual like bingo slips that were each one was unique. And myself and the sales assistant would tape them or glue them to a flyer that explained the rules and how the game would work. And, we'd give those out. And it started with maybe 100 clients. And then eventually it was 500, 600 clients. Wow. And then more and more people wanted in on it as well. Hey, we heard that the office in Chicago is doing that. Can you send it to the San Francisco office? And I'd be like, yeah, wow. I'm totally doing that.
So it had this spreading effect.
Yeah, so the beauty of it was once bingo started, I would send out a bingo number of the day every day, Monday through Friday, until we got 3 winners. I didn't want just one winner because hypothetically the contest could end after 5 days or 4 days. So it might end in a week and a half. So let's keep it going for 3 winners. And it would usually last about a month. So for a month straight, I'm emailing clients and they're wanting it. It's not even spam. They're wanting it. But the other thing is, it would have been boring to just send out a bingo number. I think people might have got bored with it, or if they're not getting enough numbers, they would get bored with it. So every day I would send out a different, just little nugget about my life or something funny, a funny story about maybe the time I prank called my grandma or the time I tried to be valiant in a parking lot of a Dairy Queen, things like that. I would tell these little stories, and the best compliment I've probably ever received was I had a client reach out and she said, Don, we just want to let you know we stopped playing bingo 2 weeks ago, but we all look forward to your stories each day. So it wasn't even about the bingo anymore. It was about the stories. And I also would never pitch them on anything just because that would be lame. I just had a sense of it. Like, what would I want to receive? And if somebody's inundating me with, come book our hotel, and all these deals, like, again, that would get boring and sound like everybody else. So I would send out these funny little stories. So that was the genesis of it.
Wow.
Now fast forward to about 2 years ago, I had kind of dabbled in LinkedIn here and there and, would post ideas or at the time you could post an article. So I'd have some thoughts I would put together and put out there. And a good friend of mine named Ken Stullen, he was admittedly a nerd for LinkedIn, and he's like, man, you should really get on here. Personal branding's where it's at. And I kind of already knew that. And I'm like, it was his kind of prodding me to get into it that really got me going. And he, he'd been a big enough nerd at it that he started giving me tips on how to update my profile and the cadence and all of the little things you do that make LinkedIn work. And he laughs now that I've become an even bigger nerd than he has. Like he posts maybe 2 or 3 times a week, where I'm like 5 days a week on it, on it, on it, on it. So he's turned me into a maniac with it. And it takes...
That's amazing. And it's great stuff. I see the engagement. What I really like is it's not you broadcasting great things you've done. There's some failures. There's some lessons learned. There's some humor in there. It is more personal disclosure. Was there something that led you to allow yourself to be open and showcase some of the things that might not have worked, or some of the things that, are just kind of funny and not necessarily, wins that you're trying to celebrate? Because you see people, it's always posting the wins rather than, hey, here's the other more vulnerable side of me.
The bingo was a great lesson, that people were attracted to personal content. But at the core of my philosophy when it comes to sales and marketing is, one, storytelling and letting people into our weird little worlds and who we are as a person. Because if I just get on here and brag about this success or promote the hotel, you're never going to get to know me. And now I'm just a faceless person in a sea of all these hotels. I want people to know who I am, and I want people to work with me for who I am. And I want to work with people that are similar birds of a feather, if you will. And people like to work with people that they know and they're friendly with. And again, I enjoy people and I like making friends. So it's really at the core of it. It's not even sales is the outcome of it, but my intent is to make connections and meet people and hey, how can I help you? And if something manifests out of it, then that's awesome. And things do. And the longer you stick with something like LinkedIn, where you go all in, the rewards are numerous.
Oh, absolutely. And you've got a huge collection now as well. It's always great to see something coming down from you, just to engage with. And I do believe that, if you're going to buy something or you're going to go somewhere, you might as well be doing it with people that you get along with, that make you laugh, not just entertainment, but make you feel good as well. And you certainly put that out. And recently, I've been tuning into a new series of yours, the alter ego for Don Barnett, Don Hotelion. Can you tell us about that and the moment where that came about as well?
Yeah, so a lot of times when I'm trying to come up with content, I have some core ideas I like to touch on, whether it's hospitality, marketing, sales, or just human interest things or motivation, thought leadership type of things. And a lot of time I use a lot of GIFs. Mm-hmm. I refuse to call them GIFs, by the way. They're GIFs in my book. So
I don't know what the right term is.
Yeah. So I'll usually I'll start looking at some GIFs and it usually gives me ideas, just by seeing a GIF and what's going on and it triggers something. Yeah. So I came across one from The Godfather, and it was Don Corleone, and I'm like, well, my name's Don. Like, how
I'm halfway there.
I'm like, exactly. Yeah. I'm halfway there. Yeah. How do I kind of play off of that, but also not in too negative of a way, because it's a criminal type of.
And you are in Chicago, so
I am in Chicago, but I'm like Don Hotelion, and play off of the Godfather gifts, and then reference back to it. So it's kind of in my rotation, if you will, that every once in a while I'll throw in a reference to Don Hotelion and play off the Godfather theme a little bit.
Now, do those posts thematically, do they manifest differently? Do they have a certain gangster tone to them, or?
Not really. Okay. Yeah, sometimes I'll try to maybe use a pun or something like that might play off of it a little bit, but usually not. Sometimes it's just, especially if I'm writing about something fun. I think at the beginning of the year I did Don Hotelion's top 10 predictions for 2024, and they were all bogus, by the way. None of them were like legit things. It was just, I'm going to do a fun post and I'm going to use my alter ego, and it was just a fun thing to do.
We gotta do one where maybe we'll come out to Chicago. We're in the back room of a pizza joint, and we've got a bunch of people around the table that you're interviewing or talking to for a segment. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And on a different note as well. So you've continued to climb sales, marketing, now with Oxford Hotels, the London House. That property is spectacular, iconic property right there on Michigan Avenue, the Chicago River. The location couldn't be better. Where do you want to grow? Is there any, seizing of the moment coming up for you? More hotels, different positions within the hotel. Where are you in the next 5 years?
There's two things. One is I see myself rising to a VP position is where I'd like to go. When I first started here, there was definitely a very large focus on sales and building revenue. But as that corrected itself and things got better, and we really started firing on all cylinders and set up processes in place, I was able then to pivot and focus more on the marketing side of things as well. So, which I absolutely love that side of it because it gives me an outlet for creativity. And again, goes back to that art school and that right brain thinking and things like that. So I love being able to use that creative side. So I think in the future, looking at, like I said, a VP type of position, probably with some kind of marketing content or marketing something along those lines is definitely something I'd be looking at. And then I also have a side hustle, if you will. I've got 3 kids that I have to put through college. Two are in college right now. So I have 3 kids to put through college. So I started doing social media management and, again, creative marketing on the side, to help people out. So I've got a couple clients there, which have given me an instant raise, if you will. Having something like that gives me another financial outlet, and my boss has been very supportive because I don't let it. I always respect the mothership.
Sure.
So I respect my day job, so I don't let the one detract from the other. So
I'm sure it actually strengthens it. The cool creative ideas that are coming out for other clients is saying, hey, we could also maybe use this in-house as well, and deploy the same marketing strategies that you're learning or tinkering with and deploying out there. That's
absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great. So you have 3 kids now. What are the ages of all them all?
My oldest daughter is 22. My next in line is my daughter, who's 19, and then my son is 11.
Oh my gosh, big gap there.
This year was I've been married to my wife. This year was our 25-year wedding anniversary.
Wow!
So,
congratulations! Congratulations!
Yeah, thanks.
25. So speaking of moments, then, how do you remain in the moment with 22-year-old problems where you're supporting and 11-year-old problems, right? So you've got the core business, the side hustle, the alter ego, and this great long-lasting relationship. How do you make sense when you come home from work and you have a 22-year-old saying, "Dad, I have this problem," and a 12-year-old? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, believe me, I am definitely have been guilty of not being in the moment enough. And I'd say a shortcoming I had for a while is being guilty of being a workaholic. And I think that a lot of people throw the word around workaholic like a badge of honor. Mm-hmm. And I did. I was one of those people that say, "Oh, I'm a workaholic," and it makes it sound like you have this great work ethic.
Right.
And the pandemic, I'd say it was really a pivotal moment where I think a lot of people, I think all of us changed in some way. And for me, one of those things was coming back down to earth and realizing that anything that ends in aholic is not a good thing.
That's true.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Being a workaholic means your stress level is really high. It means that you're not in the moment with the things that really matter. And and I think I had this just moment of enlightenment where, I thought to myself, when I'm on my deathbed someday, I'm going to look back and, are the people at London House going to remember that I worked till 7 o'clock at night,
Right.
to do this? Or is my son going to remember that we played basketball, every night,
Yes.
things like that. So
A lot of people don't and can't recognize that in the moment. That is huge.
yeah, and I think the pandemic helped with that. I think getting older, I'm 49 now, so at least for me, my sense of urgency, the older I get, goes up and up and up. But with that comes a laser focus on what's important. And I'm more capable than ever of recognizing first world problems where, little squabbles about silly things, at work or even at home. I'm very much like, why are we talking about this? Like, this doesn't matter. Like, let's focus on the big stuff. Let's not let these little things bother us.
Boy, that's powerful. There, you can be, and I have been consumed by the activities, the smaller things, the 5 or 10 things that aren't going right, and you're like, hey, got a roof over our head. We're pretty happy. Kids are healthy. That especially health scares will do that to you as well. We had one on our side, and it just put everything into perspective. It doesn't matter that the kids' shoes are muddy in the house. It doesn't. Some of these things just really don't matter. It's like we got the big things. So,
yeah,
absolutely, man. That's something we all need to keep in mind, especially as we grow older. But I'm particularly interested as I talk to people about. I have a 5, a 6, and an 8-year-old. When they get older, I'm not prepared to support a 22-year-old or 19-year-old in their daily issues. So maybe it just as they grow, you grow and you become more equipped. But any other moments that stick out at you, of them maybe growing over the years that have prepared you or changed you, maybe personally or professionally as they grew?
Yeah, actually, this one's probably more about my wife, and this is hopefully she doesn't kill me for sharing stories about her, but 25 years, I think I'm good. I would say it was about the 10-year mark in our marriage where, I think anybody in a marriage, you have little, squabbles. Hopefully, they're little squabbles, and we would have little finger pointing matches about, again, little things. She was a nurse, so she did high risk OB/GYN, and she'd work a 12-hour shift, and she'd work a lot of weekends. That way we could, she'd be home during the week to handle school stuff, and then I'd work, so she'd work a lot of weekends, and then I'd be home, and like one of the finger point things would she'd come home and she'd be like, you didn't fix the bed or vacuum or do anything? And it's like, no, I played video games and read books about robots. And then I point the finger back and go, well, you didn't do this, or, it was just a lot of this stuff. And I don't know what happened. I didn't hit myself in the head or anything. I just had this epiphany, this moment of enlightenment. And I need to come up with a better name for it because I call it the circle of happiness. And it's the opposite of a vicious circle. And the vicious circle is that finger pointing.
Yeah.
And I had this moment while she was at work, and I remember thinking to myself, if I just vacuum and fix the bed and do these things, she has nothing to point the finger at. Like I'm taking away excuses. Like, so she can't yell at me about not doing X, Y, Z. But I also realized I can't then throw it in her face. I can't then point the finger and said, look, I did this, but you're not doing this, because it's not stopping it. It's not stopping the circle from moving. So the only way to stop it is do the thing that they want you to do that's within reason, which everything was. It was all little stuff. But then you can't point the finger back. You just have to take it. You just have to say, okay, my theory was that whatever my theory was that if I do the things that she wants, that she'll basically fall in line, or she'll reciprocate. And that's exactly what happened, and it wasn't even like a matter of months or years. It was like within a week or two, like she could see that I was making the effort, and it took away the finger pointing. I didn't give it back. And then she would take care of the things that I would, look for, and
reciprocation.
And it just changed the dynamic of the relationship, which was already good, but took it to a whole other level. And that is a philosophy that I bring to work with me too, which, I know when something's going wrong and you have to hold people accountable, you want to point at X, Y, Z. But a lot of times I tell people, like, look, I can talk till I'm blue in the face, but you need to take it upon yourself and point the finger at yourself and say, what can I do? What are the activities I can do that will lead us to the result, that I'm looking for? Or it also helps stop, squabbles in the office over little petty things as well.
Yeah, I think think back. I've heard this from leadership coaches in the past. People don't get mad at what you did. They get mad because their expectations were violated. So coming home, there's expectations that may or may not have been communicated. When they're not done and those expectations are violated, that can set anybody off. And that obviously it happens in personal relationships, work relationships, things like that. That is something that I'll say we have not mastered. We're working on here. Is, I'll have to be very mindful. Is there anything, I told my wife a couple of days in a row here, is there anything that I can do to support you in the house today? Not that it's her house, that she needs my help, like we're a team in doing it, but is there something I may not be aware you're hoping or expecting that I do or don't do, and I'd like to be able to do that. If I know about it, right, then I can at least address it and say, oh, I have a very busy day, or I could squeeze that in whenever you need.
That's awesome. And that's, oh my God, that's half the battle. You're very self-aware that as men, a lot of times we just walk around completely oblivious. Because I do that all the time. Like at least now she knows better to again, just tell me what you want.
Yeah, certainly.
It'll be done. Consider it done. Oh, but sometimes I can definitely be oblivious.
Amazing. And living now in Chicago and having done so many different roles in sales and marketing, I know you're also on some boards, advisory boards even. Are there opportunities in your daily life where you're mentoring other people now in sales and marketing?
Yeah. In fact, Again, it's that getting older, right? I've reached that point in my life, and by no means do I think I know everything. If anything, I've become such a better student the older I've gotten. I mean, I'm a voracious reader now. I read constantly, and I want to get better. And again, it's that sense of urgency. It's like, God, I wish I would have done this 20 years ago, but there's no better time to plant a tree than right now. So I'm constantly learning myself, and then passing that information along to anyone who wants it. I'm happy to share that information. I had posted on LinkedIn one day, and I didn't mean to be facetious about it, but I don't worry about anybody eating my lunch, so to speak, because most people, it goes in one ear and out the other. So, I will give advice all day, and I'm willing to share secrets and things like that. It's all information that's out there, but I'm willing to share my experiences and successes and failures so you can avoid them. And
absolutely,
if it helps you win, I'm glad for it. But also a lot of people, they're set in their ways too. So
it's good though, because you're putting out great content that can serve as a blueprint, or hey, don't touch that. Those are landmines. You don't want that to go off. And it's really up to the individual people what they're going to do with it. And I know it's probably a proud moment for you when you see someone heeding your advice and moving in the direction that you would advise. because so much of the information, there's no shortage of information. This information is everywhere. You could find it. You could find it on a Google search. You can watch videos, influencers, people like yourself. It's really just about the application. Are you actually going to do anything with what you heard? And I always look for that, especially in young people that I mentor. I can talk to them blue in the face, but unless you take that first step, I'm just entertaining you.
Yeah. Although the entertaining part comes in handy, it usually it hooks them. Yeah, if you can be funny or try to be funny, then then sometimes that hooks them. One of my favorite things to do here at work is we'll do strategy sessions when we're looking at a piece of business, and I call it sharing my stream of consciousness is what I do, and it's basically we're looking at a piece of business. I want the other person to come to the table with their solutions. What do they think we should do? I don't want to just say what we should do, because if I'm the one just telling everybody what to do, I can hire a bunch of interns for that. I want people that can think critically and come up with their own solutions. And 9 times out of 10, they're spot on anyway. But we'll review something, and when it gets to my turn to speak on it, I like to just walk through my whole thought process. Like, okay, we have this many days, and this is the pattern of rooms on this, and let's look at past history here. And I'm just talking out loud everything that I'm thinking about. And I found that that's really helpful for the team in learning, how to look at like group booking strategy.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, I know we got a couple more minutes. I have a couple of questions I want to ask you just before we stop the interview. One is someone like yourself who there's so many technologies coming out, so many things for people that are reaching out to you day in and day out. It could be marketing or sales technology, trends. Where do you go for your information about new trends, technologies, things like that? Because you couldn't very well reply to every email that's coming in, every call that's coming in to try, get a demo here or there. But where do you go to find out information on the industry? What's your go-to trusted source?
There's a couple things. One, LinkedIn, obviously, because I practically live there. So LinkedIn is where I'll pick up on some things.
Okay.
We met at that BITAC conference, which was phenomenal. I would highly recommend that to anybody. I have Google Alerts set up specifically for hotel sales and marketing. And every day I'll get an email, with top headlines. Okay. And if there's 10 there's usually at least one that I'll read, and usually has something that's of value. And it might come from a source like hospitality.net, something like that. Okay. Some of it is some of the great connections I've made on LinkedIn. I know Nick Horgan. I'm guessing maybe you've met Corey Falter, another guy
I have. Yep.
I met on LinkedIn a while ago. And again, just people I've met that, I can bounce ideas off, or they'll bounce ideas off of me. Hey, what do you think of this? Would this be helpful for hotels? And I'll say yes. Or, maybe this needs to be tweaked. You and I have had those very conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Myself and Andrea and so I've had those conversations with Hover as well. So,
it's great when you'll give us, the time to say, we think you have this problem. We're going to solve this. What do you think of this? And you've been so forthcoming with feedback and ideas to try to validate or disprove something that we're thinking about. So that we appreciate you to no end there for sure.
Yeah.
Any advice you would give to a just out of college sales and marketing professional, maybe working front desk or thinking about going in to sales and marketing at the hotel level, given what we've heard in this interview and then your own background, work ethic, friendliness, anticipating the needs, what would be some advice that you would give for them on how to use the next 10 years to rise to your level or beyond?
I would say focus on experience. I think, especially in our industry, we have too many people that chase titles or you're chasing money. But if you're only focused on that, then what are you really learning along the way? And, you might be capping yourself as far as what you're capable of. And so look for opportunities to learn first. And if money comes with that, great. But as you're coming up, One, you need to look to establish yourself and your MO and work on your personal brand for sure. I don't think nearly enough people do that, and that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down. But but establish yourself and just look for opportunities to learn. Take on that extra work. Take on that market that you wouldn't normally want to do, but do it for just the experience of it. Because what's going to happen is sooner or later, that opportunity that you want is going to open. And now you can say, hey, I've done business travel, I've done group, I've done marketing, I've worked on weddings, family reunions. And it becomes clear as day to that person that you're the person that should fill that role at that job, down the line.
Not even a competition. You're just we've seen you. We know that you're capable.
Yeah. So and with that comes the title and the money. So always put the experience of it first, and then the title and the money will definitely come if you're all in on learning and then high performance. Going out and putting the work in and performing at a high level.
Fantastic. Last, do you have any questions for us? Any questions for me?
Yeah, what's funny is I watched your podcast you just did with the Modern Hotelier, and they asked you the same thing.
That's why I added it.
Yeah, and I was like, as they asked it, I was like, oh man, I was like, I don't know what I would ask. So, oh wow. Yeah, I mean, I guess you don't go into it thinking, what's a question?
You never think they're going to turn the tables on you, and then they do.
I know. You're an entrepreneur. Again, from getting to know you, from podcasts, all of that, I've learned that, you're an entrepreneur through and through. I'd be curious what kind of advice you'd have for somebody that is, looking to start their own business or grow their business. I have a side hustle, so, I'm always looking for ways to, earn extra income with that as well, and fine tune that.
I think if you don't look at it as if it's a destination, like I was successful, or I've earned enough money, but more, if I do this thing, this venture, this agency, this startup, this technology play, and it doesn't work out. Maybe I spend 3 years doing it, 5 years doing it. If it doesn't work out, who will I be at the end of that 5 years? Will I have acquired skills and capabilities otherwise unseen, otherwise unused, otherwise uncultivated? When I started this business, don't tell my wife this, but I did a decision tree. So you start off on the left-hand side. You say, okay, can we raise seed capital? Maybe 50% we will. And then if we raise that capital, from there another decision. Can we build an MVP product? And then if we build an MVP, and then maybe that's 25% that we can actually utilize the money to build it. So this tree begins to get pretty complicated, and it goes out far to the right. And all of them have potential outcomes. The outcome now of it being a successful business with paying customers, and maybe down the road someone wants to buy it from us, was 0.00001%. I mean, it was not even a percentage of a percent. And all of the other paths led to failure, but I did it anyway. And I think that I was not afraid one bit of failing ever, because the backup to it was who I would have become over that 5 years was worth more than the potential outcome even working out in the first place. So I just did it. So that would be the advice. Just do it. Just Nike. Just do it. Just do it. Don't worry about the failure. You could fail at anything. You could fail at the London House, right? People could fail. People get fired or let go all the time. My brother actually had this happen where he was working for a great architecture firm, one of the best in Austin. He loved it. And he's just said, I really think I should go out on my own. Just go. That job will always be there for you. Just do it. Just go. And now he's building, a $500 million Four Seasons resort and doing amazing things, owning his own architecture firm. So I would just say, if you think you can do it, you probably can.
Awesome. And,
well, Don,
sometimes you wonder you look at somebody and you're like, how did they, they don't seem any better than me, right? You see somebody and they put their pants on the same way. Yeah. And really sometimes the only difference is they just said, I just decided to do it instead of talking about it or planning for it or just incessantly reading about it. So.
Yeah, and you have to have a very high pain tolerance, especially in the things that I'm doing. You may not see you can work day in and day out and be putting your best foot forward and doing all the right things. And it doesn't look like you're getting any progress. And then one day you have 5 great wins in a day. Maybe someone loved your technology. Maybe someone else bought it. Maybe the metrics were incredible, people getting click-through rates, but you don't see them. I fear that the culture today is if I do something today and I don't see the return, I stop doing it. And if you think you're doing the right thing, if you think you're on the right track and you're okay with not having immediate gratification, I think that there's something special about being able to just work really hard with your head down and your reward will come later on. But it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I thought of one more question, actually, and this is an easy one.
Okay.
If you could recommend any book, what would you recommend?
I think the book that I've been recommending, actually Blake here from Blue Form Media just picked it up, is Radical Candor.
I swear to God, I wrote it down right here.
Did
Look
you?
at that. Radical Candor. Kim Scott.
Where did you hear that from?
I had made notes because we were going to meet.
My God.
Right here, man.
So have you read it? You've already read it?
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and for the listeners, so Radical Candor, as Kim Scott puts it, is at the intersection of caring deeply about someone, but being able to confront them directly. This goes for personal relationships. It goes for people at work. I ask every new hire that comes on at Hover, please read this book, because if you're part of our family, I'm going to care deeply about you. I'm going to do everything in your best interest that I can, but I have to confront you directly. We can't go unchecked. And if you confront someone directly and you don't care deeply about them, you can come off as a jerk. Wow, that guy was really terse. He was mean. I don't know why he would act like that, or I don't know why this lady would treat me like this. But when you care deeply, then it's because I care about you. If a family member is doing something that you think they ought to not do, right? I care deeply enough. That's why I'm confronting you directly. But I think that's such a good book, just to get everybody on the same page and giving them permission to challenge and question the things. Even I, as a CEO, right, and you, director of sales for your team, please, if you care deeply enough about me as the CEO, you will confront me directly.
Yeah, and you're doing somebody a disservice if you don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, great book.
A lot of times we say, that's not our battle. I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not going to be the one. It takes courage. It takes emotional courage. And sometimes the most emotionally courageous thing you can do is confront someone directly.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And Don, thank you for spending the time with us. Listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Moments That Matter podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review and tune into the next episode.